Nobody's gonna hit as hard as life, but it ain't how hard you can hit, but it's how hard you can take a hit and keep moving forward. It's about how much you can take and keep moving forward. Our next guest has taken a number of hits in his career, from military to reduced budget cuts to civilian life. Before I bring Chris Anderson onto the show, don't forget to hit that like, subscribe, and notify. Please join me in welcoming Chris Anderson to talk about his experience from the Air Force to civilian life and his transitions.
John, good to be here, my friend. Awesome. Happy hump day to you.
Yes. Well, when this comes out, it will be on a Wednesday. So that works. Perfect. You know what, folks? That was not even planned. Chris, perfect timing.
Awesome. I'm glad it worked out just fine for you, John.
By the way, all these bloopers and stuff make the video because they make it natural. So, Chris, I want to jump right into things a little bit. In 2008, you joined the military. Well, I want to know why. Everybody's reasons are different. Why did you join the military?
Man, great question, John. I'll be honest and say in hindsight, even I don't have a clear-cut answer. It's a mixture of two things. Number one, in high school, I knew the military was something that I wanted to pursue. Back then, it was the Marine Corps. Namely, because they had the best recruiters and the most awesomest uniforms you can ask for. But my father served as well. So obviously he said, Chris, no, not yet, at least. I want you to go to college first. Went to college, CNC Tech specifically for 2 years, but within that second year, not saying I did not appreciate attending college and getting an education, but man, I wanted more ownership of my life and a path that will get me more fulfillment than what the class was offering for me. So that coupled with what I experienced in high school, I say, Chris, enlist. The difference being it took 2 years of college for me to decide to join the Air Force as opposed to the Marine Corps. So I did learn something. I did gain some wisdom in that regard. So yeah, I hope that answers your question, John.
So Chris, you joined college right after high school, correct? I mean, immediately right after, or was there any time off?
Oh, yes. I went to CNC Tech right after the following spring semester. I'm sorry.
Okay, what did you go?
Yeah.
What did you go for?
Yes. So at first I went in for, you know how it is freshman year, first semester, you decide one thing, you change it. My initial major was industrial engineering. At the time, it's so intriguing because on the surface, you get exposed to all fields of engineering. But in reality, in regards to the job market, and I'm not saying it's not those to do this present day, but the job market that was pointed toward in my direction was, let's say you're working at Disney and you're the guy who's responsible for ensuring the lines are efficient within rides. That's not for me. So I immediately transitioned into management information systems, which is literally a business degree with engineering principles. That definitely was better suited for me in my taste, but obviously, it didn't erase the bug I had, which was to enlist the military. So,
how many career changes do you think you've done up until this point?
Whew. So, in short, I could summarize my career within 3 realms. The military realm, for sure. Retail management within sales, and now tech. Starting my career in Turbonomic now. So yes.
I want to put this out there for everybody that it's okay to change your career whenever you feel it's good to change it. Don't think about anybody else. I think I'm on career number 5 or 6, by the way. I'm going wherever my passion takes me. So let's just leave it at that. I mean, come on, I'm doing podcasting now. I never thought I'd be doing that.
You're living the dream, John. I'm telling you, you nailed it.
Thank you. Not totally off topic, and we'll get right back to you in a second. And I tell this all the time, but I want people to realize A year ago, I was sitting with my kids watching YouTube and I said, "You'll never find me on there." Never say never. It's all I gotta say. All right, Chris, back to it. Let's talk about your military career. How
Yes.
long were you in the military?
So I enlisted October 14th, 2008. Separated June 14th, 2014.
Okay, from
So
20. Go ahead.
yes, I'm sorry. So pretty much 5, 6 year period, but a lot. I definitely experienced a lot within that 6 year time frame for sure.
Let's talk about that 6 year time frame. I know from past conversations. In fact, I had a conversation with Hailey Booth. Everybody, take a look up here for a link to Hailey's interview and talking about her military career as well. Now, Chris, I know the first 2 years are pretty much training for you, right? To your career, and then the next 4 years are your actual career.
Yes, you're pretty spot on. In my case, the first year was training, getting exposed to the job, which was an operations intelligence analyst. A little bit different than what Hailey's job was, but she's freaking awesome, by the way. But after a year, once I got out of my technical training and got assigned to a spec op unit, the training pace definitely escalated for sure, because I had to get spun up and get prepared for ongoing contingencies. At the time, we're speaking on the war in Afghanistan and Iraq. So things got crazy for me real fast, John.
Let's talk about your role and what you did up to a certain point that we're allowed to. Really, what did you do? What did it entail?
Sure thing. So I'll start by saying very broad job, many hats, many skill sets, but I will say that I had to start by saying I was attached to a spec op unit. Not to sound cool, it's just that our world is completely different. So with the Air Force, for example, what we call Big Blue or the conventional Air Force, you're really speaking on F-35s, F-16s, Top Gun type stuff. In our world, we could care less. We operate from within the air to ground realm, so we're focused on the guy knocking down doors during raids. We're focused on reconnaissance missions and, of course, capturing and apprehending America's greatest enemies. So for me, as an operations intelligence analyst, the bread and butter of my job was to essentially provide all the intel I can and support to operators doing missions, whether it was a Navy SEAL team, an Army ground team, or Air Force spec operators. Ensure we can do everything we can to capture the bad guys. More importantly, though, make sure the good guys come back home safe in one piece. Yes.
All right. I envision so many movies. Now, I'm sure they embellish just a little bit on some of the aspects, but that you are gathering all the intelligence, providing it to the operators who are then going to decide what to do with the information.
Absolutely. So two things. Number one, if you want a solid movie, reference, in my opinion, Zero Dark 30, in my opinion, is the best movie that captures the overall intelligence experience. I'm not nowhere close to the characters represented in that film, but that definitely captures the intel experience. Number one. Number two, in the military world, every mission consists of three people: a commander, an operator, and an intel guy, right? The commander's heading the mission, your operator's actually doing the mission in the field, and your intelligence analyst ensures that you have all the, again, intelligence. I hate saying intelligence because I'm repetitive, but the point is we are the SME on the threat. So I'm ensuring my operator knows exactly what he or she's going into during the mission, again, to achieve the mission, but more importantly, come back home safe. I said to say that within counterterrorism, we really focus on, I just said, killing or capturing our enemies. You can definitely imagine we favor one more than the other, but we really, we miss out on speaking on the lives we save more so than the lives we take. So I want to make sure we get that out there for people to understand that for sure.
Yeah, it's usually the part that's brought up first versus the part that should be brought up first of all the lives you saved. You mentioned you hate using the word intelligence. Feel free to say intel. It sounds pretty cool.
Intel, yeah, I'll do that.
It's all good, Chris. All right, Chris, let's transition a little bit. In 2014,
Mhm.
you actually retired from the military, right?
So to be more specific, I was separated out of the military due to the broad budget and force reduction plan that actually started in 2012, but in my case, didn't hit me until 2014. Um, that was unique in that no one saw that coming. I will say for all veterans who serve, 20 plus years, they'll say, yeah, those things happen. But in my case, the Joint Chief of Staff said, hey, we are spending too much of taxpaying dollars, need to reduce our budget. And the best way to go about doing so is to reduce the force. In my case, the target demographic was the 10, 12-year enlistee. Because at that point, they're offering early retirement packages. So instead of instead of serving 20 years to get their retirement package, you could have done 12 and gotten got a relative package early. In my case, that was my fourth, fifth year in. There was no incentive for me to leave. So in short, I took the risk of staying in until my commander said, hey, Chris, unfortunately, we're not going to volunteer you to leave because you're over the threshold in regards to the rank that you're in. So that's how that ended, my friend.
Okay. I have to touch on this because this wasn't the first time that you were offered the, volunteer or budget
Yes.
reduction, correct? And you didn't take it the first time. You did that gamble. It worked out well for you for the first time. The second time come up, you did the gamble. Unfortunately, you were voluntold to leave, which is really tough to understand. Like, why did he do that? I understand, the taxpayer dollars, but you have 2 years of invested training or whatever training you needed to. Then 4 years into it, you're still relatively young in military life.
Absolutely, absolutely. You know what, John? That is a conversation I've definitely thought of for many, many years, but I've always kept my opinion to myself. But I will say, on a personal note, I've never been salty, nor have I had any feelings of any ill will toward that decision. I understand it. It is what it is. I think for me, in hindsight, the biggest impact of that transition wasn't being told to get out. It was actually transitioning back into the civilian role all over again. And more importantly, coming from a very small, specialized niche to finding a way to translate all that experience onto resume for a hiring body at a store to look at and then hire me and say yes. Now that's that conversation we can take care of today for sure.
I think, and I've talked about this numerous times on my show, the past defines your future, but the past does not define who you are as a character. Yes, there are certain instances where you thought you were going to be in military life for a long time, or you might have changed your opinion, and being told to leave does feel a little downside. But the whole thing that you were talking about today, and everybody knows I'm not one to speak negative on my show at all. I like showing everybody the highlights of what's going on in their career and through their life, and really telling and captivating that story. Chris, let's transition. You left in 2014. From 2014, what did you do?
Man, so the first thing I did was go back to mom's house, right? That was a blessing, obviously. But I will say that initially the biggest hurdle for me was, again, transitioning from military life to civilian life. During that instance, my game plan was to transition into a civilian contracting job, right? Because there are plenty of opportunities out there for me where I could have easily transferred my security clearance and direct hands-on job experience to a civilian contracting counterpart, right? The one thing I did not foreshadow or see coming was, in lieu of the entire Department of Defense downsizing, so did the civilian contracting part as well. So in my case, I'm living in mom's house. Mom's saying, hey, Chris, how's the job hunt going? And I'm saying, hey, mom, no problem at all. I have all these opportunities. I'm just waiting for contracts to come my way so I can sign them and keep moving. Unfortunately, again, civilian contracting companies or corporations are downsizing. Therefore, it became a matter of time for companies to be acquired by bigger companies, or the job that used to exist no longer existed because of lack of funding. So for me, to this day, I remember the conversations in email chain that started from, "Hey, Chris, we're looking forward to having you join our team. We're just waiting for things to settle down with reallocation of funds," to, "Hey, Chris, remember months ago we told you had that job waiting for you? Well, unfortunately, it doesn't exist anymore. So if anything happens in the foreseeable future, we'll hit you up. But for now, we can't do anything for you." That put me in a very tough spot because, again, I'm in mom's house and I love mom to death, but I'm a grown man who came from living an independent, self-sustained lifestyle in the military to, I have nothing. So that immediately propelled me to find a job, John, at any cost. And literally a friend of mine who got out at the same time told me to go check out the job market within the Pacific Northwest. Bought plane ticket January 5th, 2015.
Whoa, hold on, wait a second, because that's I want to step back for a couple of questions, because what you're about to touch on is very important and compelling, and I want to get there in 1 second. But were there any 3-letter companies that you could transfer to during this that were interested, or were they all having the whole downsizing happening?
Right. So, okay, I will say in the intel community, a few of the big letter agencies out there that we all transferred to would be, let's say, the DIA, Defense Intelligence Agency. The NSA is another big one. There's, of course, the CIA route. If you want to pursue a career in the Department of Justice, the FBI is a big one too. The problem I had was on in regards to a resume I'm bringing forward, I'm only offering, 4 or 5 years of service. And while it's counterterrorism and did a lot within that period that I'm still proud of to this day, the problem is that in competing for that job, I'm competing against career police officers, career counterterrorism operatives in the military. So that was a struggle within itself. In short, being told no. Unfortunately, we need more. That was the problem within itself. Hope I answered your question, John.
You did. And I like that so far you've talked about some of the hurdles that you've come into of having to leave military, being told you don't have enough background, probably eventually being told you have too much background. Hate to tell you, but it's going to happen. It does. Now you're at mom's house. Pride is really one of the key factors, right? You're used to being on your own, military life, and it's to yourself. I can tell your character, and you're taking this as, I shouldn't be back at my mom's house. I should be doing this on my own. I should be doing it on my own. A friend mentioned, "Hey, listen, take a look over at, out West." And you did something I probably would not have done, but I find it really compelling to tell your story that you bought a one-way ticket. You want to tell us about it?
Absolutely. And this is where life gets interesting. Obviously, it's my life, so I have my opinion, but I'm sure anyone in my family will say, "Chris, you made the wrong decision." But yes, I literally bought a one-way ticket January 5th, 2015 to get a job. Plain and simple. In fact, I already had interviews lined up during that week. So for me, buying a one-way ticket enabled me to get out to Portland, Oregon specifically, knock out these interviews and get a job. If things went well, I can stay for a little bit. If things not work well, I had intended on returning, but obviously in my case, things did work well. I actually got a few job opportunities and gained some employment to get some paychecks under my belt.
Did you have a place to stay when you were going there, or were you just going to wing it? Be like, all right, I'm just going to land in this hotel, crash on this guy's house, meet up with what was the plan?
Right. So this is where those bonds and friendships that you forge in military are worth their weight in gold. I was very fortunate to say that a close friend of mine is from Portland. he literally had an apartment right outside of the Nike headquarters in Portland. If those don't know, Nike is headquartered in Portland, Oregon. So he said, Chris, listen, I know what you're going through, because obviously he went through it himself. He said, Chris, dude, just get away ticket, stay with me and my wife, we'll take care of you. That way, when you get on your feet with the jobs that you're trying to pursue and knock out and knock down, you'll be good to go. And literally, that's what enabled me to get there in the first place. If I didn't have that game plan, then I would have been stuck at mom's house still.
I love the bonds that are formed in military. Now, I've never been, I'm not a military person, but I've talked to so many people. I know some military folks that work out at my gym, and their character speaks for everything. I don't even know them so well. I can just tell how they come across, how they carry themselves. So the bond that's built in military and transition, no matter where you go, you will always find somebody that will reach out and have that helping hand.
Absolutely. Because especially from, well, anyone can relate if you're a veteran, but for me, I'm talking about literally working with men and women who are putting lives on the line, their own included. I will say, it's one thing to say that while I served the uniform, that I looked after every person. Allow me to pull and remove the veil here and tell you there are people who I worked with who I would not have wanted to pay the so-called ultimate price for. I'm sorry. Negative Nancy's, so on and so forth, no. But for those men and women who stood up for the values that we believed in, who worked with honor and integrity, those were the few among the many. And I'm proud to say that those are the folks who, to this day, I've remained in contact with and have always been in contact with me to help me throughout my military career and obviously my civilian life as well. So that, yeah, the military relationships I've forged over the years have been worth everything to me. Without that, literally, I wouldn't have gotten to where I'm at today, my friend.
Nice, very nice. Let's talk about Turbonomic. So you're at Turbonomic now, right? You're in tech.
That's right.
I have to step back again because you went from high school to college to military, Air Force. Then you're out. You're back at mom's house, right? You're in Portland for a job in retail. Now you're at Turbonomic. Why Turbonomic? Why tech? And how did you end up here?
Sure thing. So, first off, I fully appreciate the experience I attained while working within retail management, but man, I was not utilized to my fullest potential. That was a huge mental, financial roadblock there. Transitioning from a high-speed spec op military world to selling gym memberships, or namely, I was a store manager for Famous Footwear. Great opportunity, but the problem I faced was advancement. If I wanted to advance, I literally had to wait for someone to retire in a lot of cases. And it was very difficult knowing you're going to be stuck here in a small little niche for an unforeseeable future. A, and B, again, I'm not being utilized for full potential. So again, going back to those military bonds I'd forged, it was November 2020, my former superior calls me and said, hey, Chris, how's it going? I want to call and catch up with you. By the way, what's to hear about you working at a shoe store? What's that all about? You like it? Well, listen, dude, I already know you're not doing what you used to do. I already know your roadblocks here. You need to consider transitioning to tech. And when he told me that, I'm like, dude, I'm not a software engineer. How in the world can I compete with those guys? He's like, Chris, it's not about the software programming world. It's about the sales industry within tech. Sales is where you need to go. Once he put that bug in my ear, I immediately took advantage of joining what's called the Breakline education, or the Breakline community, which you might have heard before from Hailey and Kaitlyn McGinnis. The Breakline community showed me the tech industry, and more importantly, showed that I had potential in earning a tech job. They helped reshape my resume, helped me translate my military skills to skills necessary and needed in the tech industry. And then within a few opportunities, here comes Turbonomic. And I will say, going through that pipeline, that a lot of companies said no, but Turbo said yes every step of the way. And when I tell you that this is the opportunity that I wanted, not because of the company and the platform the company has, but the culture, right? The culture and the people resonated with me because it reminded me of a military service. Everyone spoke more about working with their colleagues more than the awesome platform that Turbonomic provides. That was a huge red flag for me. Chris, this is it. Go all in. And yeah, I'm here today talking to you now, John, because of that, my friend.
You mentioned Breakline. Breakline was talked about in a conversation I had with Kaitlyn McGinnis. In fact, everybody take a look up here on the recording I did with Kaitlyn McGinnis, who talked about Breakline and how it helped her translate her military career to really civilian life, and how it took the resume. They worked with her. She had nothing but positive things to say about it. I included them on the podcast and on the links because I believe in giving a shout out to those who help others. Turbonomic. Now, everybody knows I work for Turbonomic. I'm a senior PMM and tech evangelist for Turbonomic. And you mentioned tech sales. I'm in tech. I do tech stuff, but guess what? I do all that content creation and really get to evangelize the product. So there's different aspects of tech. You've only been with Turbonomic now. When we're doing this recording, I think you're over a month, but when we talked, it was only a couple of weeks.
Absolutely. I am new, wet behind the ears, but again, it didn't take long for me to see that beyond the job offer, everything that was told to me was not a lie. There weren't no wolf tickets. Beyond the company and the platform that we provide within the IT community, the culture of Turbo was amazing, right? And literally, I can tell you that there has been a path laid before me. It started with the interview process, reached out to current Turbo employees who were, if not Breakline alumni like myself, prior military servicemen and women, or just awesome Turbo employees who are kind enough to say, hey, Chris, I heard about you coming through Turbo. I heard you wanted to help. I can help you. Here's some insights to help you navigate your way through the interview process. It started with there. Once I actually, after I got the offer, John, all right, Chris, welcome to Team Turbo. Listen, if you want to succeed in our company, here are some advice for you can take. And more importantly, know that your path isn't one-dimensional. You can start off as a sales development representative and branch out to a wide variety of positions. It's up to you to choose. But know, whatever path you choose, we are here to help you along the way. And I literally rely on that to this day, John. It's awesome.
I agree with you. You don't have to stay with one role if that's not what you're looking for. Passion. The people at Turbonomic are very passionate about the product, but more passionate about the people and succeeding and being happy. Chris, one last question before we wrap things up. Civilian life before Turbonomic, and I'm going to tack on to that. Is there anything you would like to leave, maybe some inspiration for those who are going through the same thing? So how was civilian life before Turbonomic, and anything you want to leave with the audience?
So to be clear, right, with civilian life, like many Americans, I was living paycheck to paycheck, right? So for those who live like that, and many of us do, that comes with a lot of anxiety, a lot of pressure, knowing that you have to manage your life literally one paycheck to the next. So with that, especially for military veterans, I'll say this. Number one, whether you plan on retiring within your timeline, or in my case, Uncle Sam says, hey, Chris, we're cutting it short. Be sure to invest in the time to find resources that will help you translate your military skills to civilian skills. Unfortunately, the civilian world has a very limited knowledge and exposure to the military world. In fact, as I was applying for jobs, the feedback I got was, okay, Chris, well, we think you can follow instructions. You work long, harsh hours, Beyond that, I have no clue what the heck an ops intel analyst is. So with that, even if it requires you actually pay somebody to help you translate and build your resume for you, do that. That resume is your front door to that job interview, number one. Number two, the resume also validates or help you validate your salary. If you have the opportunity to negotiate your salary, your resume is a starting point. So I will start there. Number one. Number two, even though you're transitioning out of military folks, there are a lot of things that you can keep. Your work ethic, your pattern of life, your eating habits, working out, staying fit, your self-sufficient, confident mentality, keep that. That will help you succeed. And last but not least, always leverage on the brothers and sisters that you met when you were in. In my case, I can tell you there are folks who I have not seen in person since I got out, but all it takes is one phone call. And from there, it's like I've saw them just yesterday. So those be the big three things I would impart upon anyone transitioning from military life into civilian life, and go for it. The world is yours. Just own it and take it.
I like that. The items that were indicated of your work ethic, your eating habits and workout, all the things that do not require an education, do not require skill sets, that you can show up and that are free and that you keep doing and get done. All right, everybody. I want to thank Chris Anderson for joining the show. Chris, thank you so much.
John, this is awesome, man. Love you, man. This is dope.
I'm glad you enjoyed it. Me too. I enjoyed the conversation. I enjoyed the back and forth. I enjoyed you sharing your story to the audience. Everybody, this has been the John Myer Podcast. I'm your host, John Myer. Thanks for joining the show. Don't forget to hit that like, subscribe, and notify, because guess what? We're out of here.